An interesting observation. Okay, and we are live. Thank you. We have some people already waiting for us, which is good. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We're good to go. So, good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining us for all the days, actually, and for the final day of our webinar. This is the day 3 of the Cyberkach AI security webinar. In the days 1 and 2, we've had to discuss vibe coding. We've had to discuss AI and supply chain risks for the different days. And today we have 3 executives that have joined us to talk about AI security governance. Just a quick point about cyberkach.com. We help modern teams, we help teams build their security program via training. We have different products that we offer: executive training, staff training, in live, in person, and even on demand. And we also obviously have our Cyberkach podcast, which is driving most of our conversations. So please join us. You can follow us on LinkedIn, you can follow us on Spotify, you can follow us on YouTube to join the conversation. But moving quickly, because we have a lot to discuss today, let's meet the panelists that we have to talk about AI security governance today. So in no particular order, so let's meet them. Charles, do you want to go first? Introduce yourself, an opening statement.
Yeah, thanks, Kachi, and thanks to all the attendees. My name is Charles Onochie. I'm the Global CISO for GAN, and spent the last 20 years in technology and cybersecurity. I consider myself a cybersecurity professional trying to grapple with the new AI attack landscape. So I think I'm an AI enthusiast, and it'll be interesting to see how the conversation goes today. AI is being developed as a very interesting tool, powerful tool, supposed to be complementary intelligence that should allow us to do our works better and easier. But it can easily, dovetail into a competing intelligence, that may not always be for good. So that's why this topic today is a very important topic, the topic of AI governance, where we begin to look at the frameworks and how we can set rules and guardrails for how we can manage and keep the development of AI within ethical boundaries.
Okay, nice to meet you, Charles, and thank you for introducing yourself to our listeners. So we go to Mr. Marcal, please.
Yes, thank you for having me here today. My name is Marcel Santos. I'm based here in Portugal. So good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever you are. I have a 20 years experience on cybersecurity. Started a long time ago, like Charles, a very long time ago when Windows was 95, stuff like that. And the last years is very interesting for those that is working in cybersecurity and AI. We have a lot of stuff changed in the last 2 or 3 years with AI, and of course, AI governance is more important than ever. I like to make a lot of metaphors. And when I talk to my customers, and one of them that some people ask me, "Oh, Marcel, but what a governance AI means?" And a single way I like to make a joke that is like if you take a car, it's like traffic rules. What that means? If I take a car, go to take a ride in my city, I need to know the rules, how to drive this car. And the same way here is AI. AI is very cool, but you need to know how to drive that, how to use AI to not crash your company or not crash your business. So very excited today that we discuss about AI, about some risk and some good practices with those three gentlemen together with me. So thank you, gentlemen, and let's move on.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Marcel. So we go to Mr. Gbolabo, please.
Thank you. Good day, everybody. My name is Gbolabo Awelewa. Chief Business Officer at eSentry. And it's a huge pleasure being on this session. It's always enjoyable when we get to talk about topical issues, especially around innovation. And I would say from where I sit, um, which typically supporting enterprises from a cybersecurity operations perspective in different sectors. AI governance is no longer a future discussion like it's now. So, because at times you see some buzz lines, it's like people prepping for the future. But we are here, utilization, applicability is here already. And, if we don't embed governance into how AI systems are being developed, deployed, or trained, we're simply scaling risk at the speed of innovation. So literally by enhancing the risk, and then we're coming back to try to fix the risk. And for me, what makes AI governance unique is the unpredictability, of the systems themselves. Traditional IT governance is rule-based, and deterministic, like you can tell, set of guidelines. But with AI, we're dealing with systems that are learning, they would evolve, they will make autonomous decisions, which would allow them to, by the way. And in ways, even the way the developers can fully explain it, it's for them, they can relate with it on what they could achieve with the platform. So, and on a daily basis, we keep learning new outcomes of what we could achieve with it. And this definitely introduces like a new layer of uncertainty, obviously a good level of liability that cybersecurity leaders today must anticipate. And typically in our own organization, the perspective is clear. Governing AI security isn't just about compliance, but it's about control, it's about clarity, and it's about accountability. And those are like really, really very important points. Who owns the risk? Who explains the decision? Like who ensures alignment with AI behavior and organizational intent? So today I'll be looking at governance must be as dynamic as technology that it oversees. And that means going beyond policies and real-time oversight and the human in the loop models where we are saying, we're not leaving everything to AI. Where is the human getting involved? Also providing threat-informed assurance and, keeping the AI systems functional, but more secure, and more auditable and aligned with the core value. So we're looking forward to digging deep today and, and let's, especially with the contributions of the rest of the panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gbolabo. Thank you, actually, everyone, for contributing to the conversation. So, just for some context, today we are going to discuss first, with the help of the three of them, we're going to discuss what AI security governance is in practice, how to build and embed governance structure in your organization for AI, for example, and maybe what you even need, what frameworks, what leadership behaviors are critical to ensure that as an organization you're using AI responsibly and safely as well. Just for some context, I have drawn up some news headlines that may help us ease in the conversation as we've done in the past few weeks, to be fair. And one of the news headlines that we looked at last week that is still relevant this week is the one at the bottom left, Lehigh University's survey with generative AI becoming one of the major concern for supply chain managers. And we talked about supply chains last week. It's still relevant today. It's something that when you're discussing your security governance, you want to look at. Um, the Security Magazine at the top right, saying that analysis of AI tools, this is AI tools specifically, a huge percentage of them being breached. That was from a survey. And at the top left, again, another interesting stats, too long to read. According to Gartner's survey at the end of 2024, over 70% of companies or enterprises experiencing at least one AI-related security incident. So this is obviously an important conversation for us to be having with all of these stats and surveys that are flying around. The NCSC from the UK have already begun doing an impact of cyber threats on the organizations, at least within the UK. So is a very, very important conversation for us to have, looking at what is happening. We also interact with the AI, so we know that it's an important conversation to have. So today, I'm especially happy that we have Charles, Gbolabo, and Marcal joining us to discuss this. So let's get into the conversation itself then. First question, and let me put this out for our listeners online, our listeners on Zoom as well, YouTube or LinkedIn. Please, if you have a question, you can type it in the chat. Um, Marcel, Charles, and Gbolabo are absolutely happy to take your questions. So please type it in the chat and we'll get to them. So, but gentlemen, first set of questions for everyone. Marcel, you already started answering this from the start, so maybe you can start with responding. So what does AI security governance, for our listeners' benefit, what does AI security governance mean to you and what should it mean to them? And in your experience, what have you maybe done in establishing AI security governance for people?
Thank you for that. So yes, so AI is like have a double edge for security because help us as a security professionals to better work on cybersecurity to prevent some attacks, stuff like that, but also help bad guys to attack us. But what it means AI governance here? That's a joke that I said in the beginning here. That is a traffic rules because in general, it's a simple way that say, look, if AI in simple way governance means that you need to know what is how to handle AI in a proper way to not break your company, to not put your company in a big legal legal dispute or any issue, and also can be operational. So you cannot just, oh, AI is super cool and let me push here whatever you want. It's like, as I make the joke, driving the street like crazy and no follow the rules. So sooner or later you can crash your car. Sooner or later, if you not follow governance, if you not understand how to implement AI governance in your company, that in the end of the day can be big deal. Of course, not to be such huge, big, not the way that should be, but definitely for me, AI is define follow some regulatory recommendation of laws that you need to follow, some best practices that you need to follow, and also some understand what the risk for AI in your company, so you can better measure those AI risk and measure your avoid some bad day that everybody in cybersecurity and in other company, other departments don't looking for. That is a bad day. So AI governance, in the end of the day, is like it's like some kind of preventive measures that you can take it to prevent you to go so badly late in the road.
Okay, thank you. Charles, you want to go?
Okay, I like to break things down a bit because I like to try to walk from the known to the unknown. So when we talk about AI security governance, I think it's important to break down what governance is, right? So governance is a word that we're familiar with, but it pretty much means, like it's talking about the frameworks for how rules and processes and standards are applied to control a particular system, right? So when it comes to AI security governance, AI security governance, I believe, is subset of AI governance because these are also like different terms. So AI governance in itself, tries to put the guardrails in place, sets the processes and the standards, the frameworks for how we interact with AI. So this is closely related with regulations as well. And so there are different levels at which this operates. So I would say that AI security governance it's a subset of security governance for the security professionals, but it's also a subset of AI governance. So it's pretty much looking at how we can, protect, AI within our infrastructure. It's talking about how we can protect ourselves or our systems from attacks, that are powered by AI. So this is an evolving field within cybersecurity, where we are trying to deal with like new threats, vectors that are coming from artificial intelligence. So it's important that we look at this as an extension to our existing governance structures and our existing governance frameworks as well. So I think that's the way I see AI security governance, and it's important to state that when we hear new words and new terms like AI has a lot of hype, and currently, and everyone is talking about AI. So it's something that we are still trying to sort through as an industry. And I think there's also a lot of chaos within the industry on how to manage the risk coming from AI, how to even identify the risk, and how to properly classify these risks as well. So we are at that point where we're still trying to understand these risks, and we're trying to grapple with how to deal with them at the same time, because the AI development is moving at an astronomical rate. So there's no time to sit down and think, and we just have to hit the ground and sort things out along the way.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you very much, Gbolabo. You're up.
All right, thank you very much. So for me, what AI security governance, for me, especially because I'm a service provider, it's about, ensuring AI systems are accountable, predictable, at least to a good level, and aligned with the organization's risk appetite and security posture. Because today, I would say the consumption of AI or the application of AI today has been more of applying it first without processing what your framework or structure is, and then it disrupts or is helping you innovate, and then you just go with the flow, which sort of breaches the roadmap. And we've experienced this with some of the customers, we've worked with. And why it's important for us to pay attention to it is not just at the point of deployment, but through the entire life cycle. So you are planning, you are building. The consideration is, why am I applying AI at this point in time, and what controls have I put in place? So I'll tell you from experience, and that's both internally at eCentry, because we have partners today that have built or modified their solutions to be AI native solutions, and we also, as a service provider, so understand the solution, how to support the solution for the customer, and we always get the feedback, or we see how the customer is applying and the challenges it brings. And there's a consistent challenge. AI systems often move faster than the governance structures around them, which is the nature of the innovation, because it's open and people are innovating consistently. And teams are deploying AI models into production without clearly defined ownership, which is true. And I think it's just based on the nature of the technology. Audit trails too is a bit of a challenge, or even the guardrails that we talk about all the time. How are those systems supposed to behave in cases where they are aging? And I'll give you a typical example. So we worked for a financial institution, one of our customers, where the machine learning models are used for fraud detection, right? And these models are trained continuously, which means their decision and logic will evolve And what governance is looking like, in this context isn't just about model approval, it's about ongoing validation, explainability, and, at times escalation workflows when the system's behavior diverges from the expected norm. And in that particular situation, a lot of governance have to be put in place to ensure they are tracking effectively and are working with accurate information, and their system is evolving gradually to the outcomes they're getting. Another case I would talk about was we're supporting a startup that integrated LLMs for customer support automation. So at times when you're kicking off this, the technology and the automation is exciting. And one of the first recommendations we gave was, implement input-output monitoring. And why? So that, you can flag data leakage, so you can, or a bias before it becomes a reputational risk. Implementing and not tracking, it means you'll be reactive if the innovation of the technology is going against, for example, your strategic objectives. So that had to be done for them to think about it from a reputational perspective. And in that particular situation now, governance wasn't a roadblock like people would expect that, oh, the governance guy is coming to just put controls in place and limit me from innovating or moving swiftly. But in this particular situation, we could justify that, okay, you see how this has become a strategic advantage. They were able to fine-tune AI responsibility and scale confidently. And I would say from a business leadership angle, I've also learned that governance must speak two languages. One is that one that resonates with the board and the regulators around risk compliance and the reputation of the organization. And then another, especially this is the one that helps you not be a showstopper, one that the developers and engineers also understand. So you're focusing on controls, monitoring, and tooling. So the developer, the techie, has to understand that, this governance framework is going to enable you build to last. It's going to enable you build a sustainable solution and is helping, your throughput. And I would say at this entry, what we're trying to do is apply this principle to how we advise our clients, on how they build and own their own AI enhanced, security operations, especially with tools like Purple AI. The idea is not just to activate features, but, you are looking at implementing oversight models, define the alert response ownership, and then establish metrics to measure AI's effectiveness and risk exposure. So to summarize, I would say AI security governance to me is a living framework, one that combines people, process, and technology to make sure AI supports the business without undermining its trust, security, and accountability in total. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gbolabo. So I'm gonna stay with you because I like some of your response. I just listened to it, so let me stay with you while I remember it. You've said a few things around controls and the techie guys being able to work within it. Obviously, people process technology. Thank you for that. But for organizations, and in the previous days of the webinar, we talked about vibe coding, which is coding with AI assistance in the organization, for example, and AI in the supply chain risks. So the supply chain risks that AI may introduce if you bring them into your stack. Um, with respect to governance now, how would one balance AI innovation, which would obviously improve their productivity, with good security governance? So that governance is not, like you said, governance is not stopping innovation.
All right. Thanks a lot. So I know it's a major issue. I've been in those situations even when I was on the customer client side where I'm receiving technology from a provider. And it's a tension every forward-thinking organization is dealing with right now, speed versus control. How do I churn out go-to-market, and how do I ensure I'm putting adequate controls in place? And I would say from my perspective, which is also what I always preach is, it's not about slowing down innovation. It's about integrating effectively, building governance that can move at the same pace. So yes, it's the responsibility of governance to move at the pace of innovation. So we're pushing that, we're recommending that on a steady as we go. And that means definitely embedding, an oversight into the AI development lifecycle. Of course, There's the part where now everybody knows that they are not keeping cybersecurity controls or the audit teams in the dark. They're carrying them along. The question is, when you are being carried along as a cybersecurity professional or a governance manager, you are moving at the pace of innovation. You are moving at the pace of the development guys, and that's plugging into their life cycle and applying effectively at every point where the controls should be required. So I would say for some of our clients that we've worked with, AI, like any other high impact system, gives it change control, monitoring, ownership, and defined failure scenarios. And that's the beauty of governance. Now, today we have governance solutions, governance, systems that are leveraging AI. So it's relatable. It's something they can work with. But also to be practical, start with what I would call like lightweight governance. And what is lightweight governance? Lightweight governance is, define clear data boundaries, input and output, role-based access to training and output, who has access, who has privileges to be able to train, and who has, access to the output. Also, most importantly, we talk about this all the time, the guardrails for high-risk tasks like, content generation or autonomous decision making. In fact, the huge one is the autonomous decision making, because autonomous decision making at times can come in form of advisory. It can come in form of, an output that would lead to a specific action. And if it's not the correct advisory or the correct guidance, the action you'll be taking will be the wrong one, and it can impact the reputation of an organization or impact the quality of the output to the customer. And this in place, obviously you don't want that to affect your service. So for me, as AI is scaling, governance matures along it, So, and the companies that get this right are the ones that build modular, transparent and threat-aware frameworks early enough so that innovation doesn't outpace accountability. So you always have to think, as you're innovating, you are asking that question: how do we make this accountable? How do we ensure we have visibility? How do we ensure we have control? A typical scenario is how we recommend for developers to ensure they are aligning or complying with secure code best practices. And that's helping you build secure code. It's the same thing for AI. As you're building AI, you're thinking of accountability, you're thinking of ownership, you're thinking of control, and thinking of effective visibility. So the balance is not necessarily 50-50. It's not about meeting them halfway. No, it's about 100-100, which is they're innovating, governance is following through. And in that particular situation, nobody's being limited and nobody is being slowed down. So yes, move fast, but do it with visibility, do it with effective alignment, and then trust built into the entire process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So just to say, other panelists, you can come in at any point if you want to provide more context, but maybe don't have to call you. And once again, our listeners online on Zoom or YouTube, LinkedIn, please, if you have questions, you can type it in the chat and we will happily attend to them. So let's go on then. Masala, let me come back to you. So we've said a bit about AI governance and AI security governance. So you need to implement effective AI governance if you're bringing them into your tech stack or into your environment. I don't know how to start. What would you advise me to do?
Okay, how to start? First, you hire me. No, of course they can hire me, but I'm joking here. So the first thing that I definitely need to do, and let's start from the beginning. So I like to make this joke to a lot of customers. That is this: do you know where you use AI in your company? Oh, I know. And when they go deep, generally they don't know. So the first step that you definitely need to do if you want to implement AI governance or AI security governance, you need to know or mapping your AI usage in your company. And mean here, not only in your product, means in your product, means where using, who in HR, legal, everybody, where they are using AI in your company. So that's the first, let's say, the foundation for everything. And don't get me wrong, I like to make that another comment that AI governance somehow is like cybersecurity. governance. It's not so different between them. So we start with mapping where you use AI first. That's the first step. The second step, that is, once you know where you use AI, is understand the risks of those use the of AI. And the risks here, I talk about security risks, of course, AI risks. So if you want to if you want to use a good example, for example, you can take the OWASP risk as a reference to do this exercise, but perform a risk analysis of the use of AI in your company. So the step one is understand what you use AI. The step two is understand and perform a risk analysis of your use of AI in your company. And one thing that I saw a lot of people made those mistakes is consider only security or only technical part of the risks. And it's important here to keep in mind that this risk can be legal risk, can be technical, cybersecurity risk, but also can be operational risks. Can be a risk that if, for example, I have a tool that makes some decisions, and if they don't make a wrong decision, maybe you need to pay more, you need to pay less, or crash your product, something like that. So keep that in mind, that sometimes this is not a business, it's not a technical decision risk, it's a it's a business risks. And the third step, once you know what tool that you have, once you know what the risks that you have, then you can the step three is define a governance. What is define a governance? As my colleague said here, is define the accountability. Who's going to be responsible for you in the company? Defines, of course, you need to talk to the senior leaders of the company on the step in the step three and define, okay, how much risk I want to take it. So, of course, as we have that standard discussion between risk versus reward. So it's the same here in the AI. It's not to be the same of cybersecurity. You cannot be, oh, I want to have a zero risk. You have a zero risk, don't go do business. Of course, you need to have some risk. So how far you want to go, how fast you want to go, we define by the leadership of the company. We help to define the governance model, the governance that I want to implement. So we understand first what tools that I have, then what the risk those AI tools can, in the end of the day, be a problem for you, and later once you understand the risk, understand of what to use those tools, those AI tools, or let's say scenarios, you can define the governance, you can define together with the leadership of the company who is going to be responsible, what kind of, let's say, tools or scenarios that is okay, or what kind of tools or scenario that say is not accepted at all. So those three steps, those three pillars, like I like to say, is the baby step to start the governance. Don't start to use, I think I saw some mistake that people start first with the policy. Oh, let's create a policy. Okay, policies is very nice, but a policy is nice when you know where you use AI and you know the risk for your company. So the first thing is understand what you use. The second is understand what the risks that those you use can impact you. And the third, once you have those two, understand, okay, what are you acceptable and unacceptable? Who's going to be responsible? If you be a one person, if you be a committee, we can go there, in a few minutes more deep, but the first thing is understand those three steps, and then you move forward and go deeper and deeper. But that's what we say. Those three steps can be a good, let's say, way to start your AI governance.
Okay, thank you very much. Charles, did you want to comment? But thank you very much, Marcel. Definitely, I agree with you. Charles is want to comment. Charles, I'll ask you a question in case you want to add whatever to what Marcel says. You can do that, then answer your question. But yes, I definitely agree with you, Marcel. Those three steps are good ways to start. We'll go into details later in the conversation. Charles, to you specifically, then, you have a lot of interactions with maybe board of directors or executives like you. What Marcel had said, yes, everyone is enthusiastic about bringing on AI, even board of directors. But then we also maybe need to we need to work on governance or controls around that, which would be expenses. How would you or how would you suggest our listeners that may have to communicate with board of directors, how would they explain AI security risks to executives? And how do you get them to get on board with AI security governance?
Right, thank you, Kachi, and thanks, Marcal and Gbolabo. There's been very insightful contributions. I'll just add a bit to the previous questions. And now, I believe that AI usage is already being used in a lot of organizations, even though not officially. So probably somewhere to start is try to document what you are already doing, right? Try to speak to different departments, try to understand how AI is being used in your organization, document it, then you can begin to look for the gaps, right? So, and you can take that's one approach that you can take as well. And when it comes to AI security risks and how to explain it to executives and the board. Now, executives might not be technical people. They might not understand all the cybersecurity or AI jargons, but there's something that executives understand, and that is risk. And so I would say the first thing, try to identify the actual risk. Because when we talk about risk, the fact that something is a possibility does not mean that it's a risk to your organization. So you have to situate that risk within your organizational context. So how do you do that? Right? The first thing, identify where you are on the AI value chain. Right? Are you a provider of AI? Are you a developer of AI? Are you an integrator of AI? Are you just a user of AI within the business context? Or do you have people who use AI probably for personal things? So depending on where you are on the AI value chain, the risk profile is completely different, and your threat landscape is also different. So if you're able to identify where you are in the AI value chain, then identify the risk. What is your exposure? What kind of models are you using? Right? What is the possible threats that your organization faces from using those models, and how likely are those to happen? So if you're able to identify the risk as a cybersecurity professional, the next thing you want to do is to interpret those risks in business terms. Because if you, for example, let's say you have risk of prompt injection, for example. If you tell your executives that you have a risk of prompt injection, it doesn't mean anything to them. You need to be able to interpret that in a language that they understand and connect it to the business terms, right? So what are executives, what are they focused on? What is important to them, right? One thing that is important to executives is like growth, right? So executives are interested in growth. It might be revenue growth. It might be, growth in terms of market share. It might be growth in terms of like customer acquisition. Whatever your executives are interested in, you need to tie that risk to interpret it in the terms of how that risk impacts what those aspects of the business, right? Executives are interested in efficiency, right? They want to run the business in a way that they spend less money to achieve more. So how would those risks impact the efficiency of the business, right? So those are the things that get the attention of executives, right? Now, executives are interested in cybersecurity to the extent that it supports these objectives. They're interested in artificial intelligence and AI security, AI governance to the extent that it supports, these business objectives. So another thing to do is connect this risk with your company's strategic objectives, right? Your company strategic objective at some point might not even be profitability, right? There are some times that the strategic objective might be scaling, market share, and at that point they might be willing to spend more money, right, acquiring customers than what they're actually getting from those customers. So, what is that strategic objective, right? Tie that to the strategic objectives as well. So, one, if I might recap, identify the actual risk. Don't use FOD, like fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That's one thing we see a lot in the cybersecurity field. If all you're telling your executives is how there have been 101 breaches and that you might be the next statistics, they will tell you we've been running this business for 10 years, 20 years, and we've not experienced this. So it's probably, even though that's not the right way to think, but communicating fear, uncertainty, and doubt is definitely not the way to go in, getting the attention of executives to address AI and cybersecurity risks. So one, identify the risks, the actual risk to the organization, interpret it in business terms using what the executives are interested in. Now, when you're able to do that, you stand a higher chance to get their attention and buy-in because they see directly how these risks can impact the business and how these risks can impact the business's strategic objective at that point.
And if you allow me to say here, sorry, Charles, if you also possible, in the end of the day, put some numbers, dollar numbers, there will be magic happens in the room, right? So when you see the guys, the CEOs see their dollar numbers, is some thousands of dollar numbers, oh my goodness, then you got the guys. So if you say business way and put numbers there and you can support those numbers in a good way, of course, don't generate numbers by your head. You need to have a good way to support those numbers. Magic happens.
Thank you, Marcel. Definitely expressing the AI or the cyber risk in monetary terms is definitely a good way to go in communication with the boss. So thank you, Marcel, Charles, and Gbolabo. So let's continue. Before we continue, I'll mention again. I mean, there's been at least one comment for you, Marcel, from Marcelo. I think that's similar names. When you were speaking, I mean, there's been a lot of hype. Someone saying, Marcelo Lopez saying, uh, companies just want to use AI without knowing exactly the risk to the business. So it's just some comment or feedback or support as you were speaking, Masal. Uh,
Yes. No, I don't know if I can answer this super quickly. Yes, have a lot of hype today. To be honest, we are navigating AI is pretty new. Let's say in the last 2, 3 years that I get more traction. And I fully agree with you that I have a lot of hype. And even the people try to understand how AI can help those companies. So we still have a lot to learn in the next couple of years and months.
okay, thank you very much. So our listeners, again, you can use the chat box if you have specific questions or even feedback or support like we just read out. If you type it in, we will get to it. So let's continue. So the next question now to specifically for building governance around AI and how to go about it. And we will consider this from who, what, where, and how, so that we tackle it from all the different sides. So first question, and this is for everyone, who exactly is responsible, or who would you say is responsible for AI security governance within an organization? And maybe how can the person or how can different organizations establish clear accountability?
Okay, so maybe I would jump on that first.
Please.
So I would say the building blocks, for effective AI governance, starts from clear rules and accountability. That is, who owns the risk. And yes, this speaks to multiple people. There's the business angle on, or the business wants us to leverage artificial intelligence to provide services, or the controls or the compliance wants to leverage artificial intelligence to carry out governance. And depending on what initiative is being pushed, the group, the department, in charge is responsible to define how artificial intelligence will be leveraged and integrated into the framework of the organization. Another important building block is data lifecycle policies, which is what goes in and what comes out. So who's managing data? Who's reviewing the data? Who's controlling the data? How is output being managed? And again, this would be different roles, obviously, from the people imputing to even how the customers are putting in their data, how is the customer data processed, data privacy issues.
Charles, do you want
How
to
their
come
data
in?
is being processed or utilized. Um, Another very critical building block is model of explainability and auditability. Um, and basically that means, it gets to a point you're trying to query, why did we get this output, or why was this decision made? So for AI systems that can be explained effectively and can be audited, then it's a problem. So it's critical that to ensure your innovation drive leveraging AI succeeds, auditability is key, explainability is very crucial. And then finally, I would say having specific incident response playbooks for AI specific scenarios. And basically, this means it goes back to the cybersecurity team, security operations. How can you respond to a possible incident, from an AI specific scenario, either caused by leveraging AI or that would require leveraging AI to actually get the outputs or to resolve. And typically having these playbooks in place, testing them out effectively, and ensuring they would work and align with the organization's strategic objectives, is the responsibility of, for example, the CISO, for example, or the chief risk officer. So mapping out these building blocks, knowing who's responsible for actualizing them for the organization and reporting on them is very critical. Thank you.
Thanks, Gbolabo. So, Charles and Marcel, before you come in, I see we're already answering the next one. So, who is responsible, and then maybe what are some of the key building blocks for a good AI security governance program?
Okay, I'll jump in very briefly. I'll say that when it comes to AI security governance, I would like to make this distinction between AI governance and AI security governance. They are very related, but I believe they are a bit different. AI governance talks, about a more broader topic within an organization of how AI is going to be used within the organization to achieve the organizational objective. So when the organization has decided how they want to use AI, then the next topic is how do we secure, our usage of AI, whether we are developers of AI, how do we secure, the development pipeline? How do we secure the data inputs, the training of the data? How do we ensure that whatever we're producing meets our security objectives? So the AI security governance, when we talk about governance, we're talking about the frameworks, with which and the rules that are going to guide this endeavor. So I would say that AI governance is cross functional, and that should sit within the executive management. So, and just like Gbolabo highlighted, there are different roles and responsibilities within AI governance that will be shouldered by different people within the executive management. So for example, one of the things you have to consider from a legal perspective is how we're going to handle intellectual property. That's a question that legal has to sort out. And what kind of regulations do we need to apply or comply with if we are using this particular kind of AI or developing this kind of AI, depending on where you're located. If you're located in the EU, there are regulations like the EU AI Act that defines depending on what type of AI you're developing, the different risk levels that you fall in. There are, regulatory requirements that you have to meet. So when it comes to like AI security governance, now anything security, senior management is, ultimately responsible. But in terms of accountability to set up the framework or to even recommend a security framework, I believe that falls on the shoulders of the CISO, because when you're focusing on security, now we have decided as an organization we're going to use AI in this way. So the CISO needs to come up with a framework for how we're going to secure, our use of AI. So it's not the CISO's responsibility to. It needs management approval. So this needs to get management buy-in, just like any other management system. But I think the CISO should take the initiative and the leadership to drive the conversation about the AI security framework.
Okay, thank you, Charles. Myself.
Yeah, so I got just add one comment here. I fully agree with my colleagues here that who should not be responsible for AI? And now I say AI security. I think 100% CISO. But one mistake that sometimes I saw in the past is when you ask who is responsible for AI governance, and some people say the committee, and that entity that is committee that can be 2, 3, 4, 5 people. That is a mistake. So you need to have at least one person that committee that will be accountable for, play the music. So you may have a 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever number of members that you want to have in the committee to management the AI in the company as a governance. But we need to have one person that should be the chair, should be say, okay, I call the shots here because we have some situation that we have, that we need to have someone that are going to be the referee, say we go to this direction or another direction. And that can be CEO, of course, but sometimes CEO is super busy. So the only comment that I have here, don't make that mistake that I consider that a committee to 3, 4 people will fix everything. You need to have someone that will be, in the end of the day, the authority for AI governance in the company. In AI security, of course, I feel like we started that CISO is the best person to be there as a responsible.
Okay, thank you, Masal. We've had also a few more comments coming. One was for Charles' strong point on AI governance versus AI security governance. So, Charles, you have some fans. And KK here is interestingly saying that we already answered some of her questions. So, she says, I'm just glad all the areas I wanted to ask about have been tackled, XYZ. So, thank you, gentlemen, for tackling some of the questions even before they are asked. So let us continue. Once again, if you have comments or questions, you can drop them on LinkedIn, on YouTube, or on Zoom, and we will pick them up and tackle them. So we just talked through briefly who is responsible for AI security governance. That's what gentlemen were discussing, and what are some of the basic building blocks. What about when? Now, yes, many organizations already started adapting, whether it's been approved or not, because you have people using ChatGPT or some other AI within the organization. But ideally, when should AI security governance be initiated? And if, as many organizations will fall into, if AI adoption has already started, what's the most effective way to retroactively strengthen governance without stopping the innovation?
Okay, I think I'll jump in because I said something along this line before, so I'll just make it quite brief. I'll go back a bit to talk about the building blocks then on if those for companies that are already using AI. Like it depends on what you have in place, right? Talking about the building blocks, it depends on what you already have in place. Now, AI is new, but AI is not a technology in isolation. AI is built on existing technology, and the best place to start is from where you are. So if you already have like an information security management system or any other management system that is implemented, there are frameworks that you can easily integrate into your management systems, like the 42001 AI management system. So if you're located in the EU, there's the EU AI Act that is also for companies that are either providing AI tools or services in the EU, or that are based in EU and they use AI. So that's a good place to start. Try to identify where your company falls within the risk levels. So there are four risk levels. There's prohibited, which I believe no companies should be playing there. There's the high risk, the limited risk, and the low risk. Try to identify where you fall and what are the things you need to do, right, to comply with your risk level. So that's probably a good place to start. Then for companies who are already innovating, I think the first thing I would suggest is to document what you already have, document what you're already doing. When you are able to document what you're already doing, then you can begin to evaluate what you're already doing to determine what needs to change, what can be improved, and what you probably want to discontinue. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
Okay, so maybe just to support what Charles has mentioned, yes, typically the best place to establish it is at the start of the first line of code. Well, yes, like you mentioned, that's not the case for most organizations. And the easiest way would be another approach is conducting an AI governance readiness assessment, and then typically just work your way backwards, from business critical use cases. So yes, you're already running it, but you want to confirm your readiness, and then from there, now start applying the controls and embedding the governance. For organizations still starting off or that have the chance, start from your line of code, which is from what you are building before you now move, into the operations. It might be it would feel like a bit of a showstopper initially, but if you reference what I said initially, the governance drive now needs to move at the speed of the innovator. So once the governance drive can move at the speed of the innovator and they are running at par, then everybody's good. But yes, it's key to, confirm readiness, have an inventory of where you've already, applied, and then apply the governance frameworks at a different stage.
Thank you. Asa, do you want to comment or we should go on?
Let's go on. I think I agree with the gentleman. I probably not add so much more than that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have a question here. Let's maybe just take one of the questions first. Someone is asking, which is interesting. Charles, I'll throw this question to you first. Should we create a new job role that only looks into AI governance and policy? Open question for everyone, but maybe Charles, Gbolabo also wants to answer.
Now, a new job role that only looks at AI governance and policy. I would say that budget is always a restriction. So if you are in an organization that has all the money to focus a full role on AI governance and policy, then maybe you want to do that. But I would say possibly integrate this into your already existing GRC structure, GRC system, and provide the upskilling and the right tools for them to understand the new threats within this AI landscape and integrate it into your existing risk management approach, not creating a separate thing for AI. That's what I would think.
Okay. Gbolabo, you were going to speak?
Yeah, so I was going to say, like the mandate, if there's anything we'll be saying about AI, it's not here to replace or even necessarily create new job roles. It's actually there to augment. So if you look at it from the augmentation perspective, you're literally looking at what existing roles do you have and how are you enhancing those roles to be able to cater to AI governance. So like Charles has mentioned, yes, you're looking at your governance structure, your governance team, and you're enabling, training, helping develop the capacity to be able to drive. So I think most organizations will look at it from an augmentation perspective and not necessarily replacing people or even bringing in new people. So it's leveraging people that already have the experience of their structure, of their systems, of the process, and then, helping them develop that capacity or the capability, leverage.
Okay. Thank you very much, Masa. I imagine you agree as well.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no, what I'm going to say that I feel like we hear with our gentleman in charge that probably the best way. I don't see that it will be a new position for that. Probably what are going to happen is the GRC professionals. We have a good opportunity here to, improve their capabilities to understand more. A probably a person that if he or she want to start to work today in GRC, AI is definitely a good opportunity here to learn and observe some knowledge there that will be good opportunities. I don't see a new position be open. More today, the company is more flat, does not have a lot of positions. I don't see maybe some companies that are huge, have more complex. We may have a chief AI officer, but most of the company will be seated on CISO, CTO, something in the middle of that.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're all on the same page for this. There's some more feedback from Maria because she's beginning to understand AI better. Thank you to the gentleman. You're welcome on their behalf. So let's move on with some of the questions. There's say at least one more question online, but let's go with our script first. So again, questions for you all, gentlemen. You have obviously several years of experience, like you've said, and can you share, anonymized, definitely, any lessons or insights from situations where inadequate governance has led to big issues in your security teams, in your technology teams? So, because I imagine this can clearly be translated to AI from regular tech. So, any insights or lessons or
I can start
situations?
with a good one. So, the people is very scared about AI, and I saw on one example that I want to praise that they put a lot of controls, a lot of stuff that instead of making AI, everybody happy to use AI, make the opposite, make the people get upset because if I tell the company that I'm going to use AI, I need to follow, make a request for a committee, approve on X, Y, Z. So one big mistake here that I put a lot of I don't say that you don't need to put any kind of let's say process in place, but be careful to if I flip the coin here for a minute, not put a lot of hurdles to get stuff done. So you need to here make a difference between what is easy cases that it can decide for AI tools that the company needs to use. Those that is really big deal that definitely need to put a lot of people to investigate before yes or no. So don't put all let's say the eggs in the same basket. Consider all AI tools is the same risk. That's a huge mistake because if you consider that people use ChatGPT for marketing stuff, the same that people use for upload data, it would be a huge mess and make a lot of barriers to people to use AI. And at the end of the day, a lot of people are going to use if you say yes or no. So better that they tell you and you are very aware, but don't add there a lot of hurdles just to try to have some control about how AI you use in the company. That is a mistake that I saw some people doing in the previous months, that don't make any sense for me. That I need to find a balance here to not to stop the business, as my friend here said, versus usage. So don't be zero risk because there is no zero risk.
Okay, Charles, Gbolabo, any comments on this, or we can go on? There's some question again we have from LinkedIn this time around. So Cameron, saying thank you for this important discussion, and he's asking, how do you see the current trajectory for AI technologies? This is very subjective. Do you think that the momentum has been lost, or or will it continue in the backdrop of limited human-made data? I mean, how do you see the current trajectory for AI technologies? Is the key question from LinkedIn.
So maybe I'll jump on that. I think the trajectory is still on. I think the difference now is we are gradually seeing a possible reduction in noise and sensationalism, which is the hype, because um, when the noise started, it looked like futuristic AI would do this, AI would do that. For example, AI will take our jobs, and then we're getting to the point where we know that, hey, you know what, some of us have probably been using AI even before now, but there's just some level of intentionality going forward, especially when you go look at it from a corporate governance perspective, which is organizations are leveraging AI. So I think the trajectory is peaking at an applicable level where a lot of the conversations now are use case based. So, for example, if you check on social media, and by that I mean LinkedIn, if you check on LinkedIn, most posts around AI now literally need to be use case based. Whether it's creating content, whether it's from a video perspective, or leveraging it as technology for a payment organization, or creating AI agents to drive a process that is monotonous and requires human intervention. And literally, so these days I'm seeing more of use cases on how AI can be leveraged, at least especially in the cybersecurity space. There's a lot of talk about AI agents being developed by CISOs and chief risk officers to sort of automate recurring engagement, especially for report development. And I think this is educational. So we've gotten to the point where no more hype and buzz. Now we're putting out content that people are learning for, are getting education about, and are looking at adapting to. Also, the fear about it replacing people, I think, is gradually reducing for the learned mind that is paying attention and know that, like Marcel has mentioned, it's an opportunity for everybody to develop capacity in your own space and know that AI is here to stay and to be applied effectively. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gbolabo. Charles, Masal, your comment on AI trajectory. I think this is, I mean, it's very subjective. So just your thoughts.
Yeah, 2 years ago, everybody say, "Oh, I'm losing my job in 2025." He's still here. We still have a job. So AI is not destroy all the job. Let's be honest. But everybody, oh my goodness, freaking out. But I agree with let's say that in the end of the day, probably have here be more focused on the use case. Of course, maybe I be say something stupid here tomorrow. Open an eye, bring some magic stuff that we break the everybody. But so far, what is seen in the market that maybe more focus use case that will be useful, that it can use AI. For example, in cybersecurity, we have some tools that can connect the dots from SOC to collect information, so it can help. But in the end of the day, you still need some human to go there and confirm that everything is okay. So you cannot trust AI 100% and relax and definitely not today yet. For some situation, maybe you can have some boundaries and can decide, but you still have a lot to learn and a lot to improve in the next couple of years to be everything will be done by AI. I think we're a little bit a few years, hopefully, far away from that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just jump in a bit. Yeah, like you said, this topic is quite subjective. It depends on where you're looking at it from. I agree with the panelists that we've not seen the drastic, like loss of jobs and all that. I believe that AI is definitely the future. And I believe that, if you study like the hype cycle, we are getting to that point where we are beginning to see the real value. And like Gbolabo said, the noise is reducing. But AI holds very strong potentials. And there are, definitely going to be some impact on jobs, but maybe not to the scale that, we are thinking initially, because we're still a long way from, having like those, super intelligent, in quote, AI systems that will fully replace humans. But if you're listening to the news, especially from like big tech, that have adopted, that are, like the main guys in AI development and adoption, you would see like a lot of, cuts in, the and layoffs as a result of AI beginning to do some basic things. But what I would always say is that a lot more jobs are going to be created. So we probably need to start rethinking the way we think about work, right? And with the way we think about what is high value work. I believe that, humans are going to need to do like much more high value work. So for example, if you work in a security operations center where you have, hundreds of level one analysts, just triaging, clicking security events, AI might be able to do that, right? So we would need humans to supervise, but probably less humans to supervise. So I think it's my advice and recommendation is to start thinking about your role in the age of AI. What can how can you develop yourself and add value at a level that would be difficult for AI to easily replace.
Okay, thank you very much, Charles. Thank you, everyone. Yes, it was a subjective question. And thank you, Cameron, for asking that from LinkedIn. So, just still on this question, Marcelo on Zoom says that Skynet is not a reality yet. So, it's supporting Marcelo's comment. Though I know, interestingly, yesterday, Grok, that's XAI's AI, went off, in quote. But let's continue. We still have a few more questions that have come in. So if you have more questions for the team on Zoom or LinkedIn and on YouTube, please type in the chat and we will try to get to the ones that we can get to. I imagine most of them. So gentlemen, let's continue. So in terms of actionable advice, Systema, what should organizations prioritize now for them to be able to continuously improve their AI security governance or even to operationalize it if it's not yet there? Open question to all of us. Masal?
Yeah, so I basically would say that they definitely need to invest in AI. They definitely invest in risk. I think that the basic here is this: you need to always consider the risk for your company. That's something that I like to advocate a lot. Risk, risk, risk. Don't go to the hype. Don't go to create stuff. Results have some foundation. The foundation for any kind of priority that are going to do should be risk based. So once you have the basic risk based, you do your homework, you do your exercise, you know what the risks that you have in your company, you know what you need to put priority and put your money, because one thing that Charles and Rob are going to agree with me, it's always it's a help when you have a budget And you never have an unlimited budget in security, so you cannot prioritize everything. You always need to define where you're going to be first, where you're going to put your money, what horse you're going to invest first to protect the company. And it's the same here, that you should always, based by risk, and even that, maybe you've made a mistake, of course, but at least if you fundamental work in your risk, you have a good, decent risk management to understand what the risk of your company, understand what is going to be the big problem that you have. You can prioritize and invest money and funds or people, resource, whatever you want to protect your company from AI risks. But definitely risks should be your, let's say, driver to where you need to invest next your money on to protect AI and AI security.
Okay, thank you. Charles, do you want to go? I know Charles has to.
Can you recap the question again? I kind of missed some part of the question. Sorry.
Okay, so what would be your advice for organizations? What should be their priority for them to maybe operationalize AI security governance, which you've advised for them to get, and to even continuously improve it? Charles, I also know you may have to leave soon, so if you have your closing words, if you can give it at the same time, that's fine.
Okay, so I think I will dial it back to risk. And you know what, we've talked a lot about AI security governance and AI security risks, but not every company is at the same level of risk exposure. There might be some organizations that have very limited or very low risk exposure from AI. For those companies, maybe you don't need to take any drastic actions, right? But for companies where you are either developing AI or you've integrated AI into your workflows, or you have general use of AI within you have business use of AI within your company. It might be something as small as just having a company business subscription for ChatGPT, and you're using it to do documentation for your business and all that. Then you have some level of exposure, and you need to evaluate this level of exposure versus how it can impact your business. So if you're a company that is sending out proposals, for example, and you're using, let's say, the most common one, ChatGPT or any other generative AI tool, to write these proposals or modify these proposals to send out, then you need to evaluate how that could impact your business if it generates some content that is false, right? So if that is an acceptable risk to you, then you don't need to do anything. But if it's acceptable, you need to put a control. And what is that control? You might enforce within your policy that whatever is generated by this ChatGPT must be read through by a human. That's a control, and that might be sufficient, for to address that risk from your company. So it depends on how much exposure you're using. But on the other side, on the other hand, if you are a developer of AI, especially AI that is used for critical processes, let's say you're developing an AI model that is doing fraud detection, for example, then you need to take more drastic measures. So right from how the algorithm is built, your development pipeline, you need to put in controls there. You also need to look at how the model is trained. How is the data cleaned? First of all, what data sources are you using to train these models? How are you getting these data sources? You need to have controls about intellectual property, not using data sources that you are not authorized to use, not using data sources that could introduce bias into the model. So you see already that the governance needed for these two different companies is completely different. So first of all, I think it's called an AIIA, that's AI impact assessment, to determine how much impact AI systems or risk to AI can impact your business. then that would determine how much you should spend, right? Because you don't want to go crazy, right? It should always be a risk-driven decision on what actions you will take. And that totally depends on your risk appetite.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Charles. We have more questions coming in, and thank you very much, Charles, for all your input today. So, but
Sorry
for
to
your
cut you, Kachi. I would need to drop off very soon, so I might just need to say like a closing one at this point, and
sure.
thank the panelists, Gbolabo and Marcel. Thank you so much. It's been nice discussing this topic with you. I've learned a few things from both of you as well, so thank you. And Kachi, thanks for putting this together. And to the attendees, I hope this has been insightful. And AI is still a developing field. There's still a long way to go. I wouldn't want anyone to catch the fear. And so it's a new thing that we are, new technology that has a lot of prospects and also provides a lot of advantages. And I would like to encourage everyone to focus on how to take advantage of the positives of AI and not ignoring the negatives, but not to be fearful about it.
Thank you very much, Charles. It's been good to have you here. Definitely, we have a hard stop in 7, 8 minutes. So let's take two more questions from the crowd, from Marcal and Gbolabo, and we can call it a day. So we have here from KK a question about hallucination. So in the event where AI models hallucinate, which is fairly common, what measures as part of the security governance can be put in place to control such patterns, whether to detect or to manage it when it happens? Gbolabo is
That
smiling.
sounds like a good question. That sounds like a good question for Masai. Well, let me jump on it.
Yeah, so
Um,
basic, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so to just say, I know, and it's a major issue, especially when the AI systems are are interfacing with your end users directly, and then you get to be reactive at the point where hallucination starts. So the reactionary approach is the model of explainability that is very critical to be able to even confirm, like, this is definitely a hallucination. It helps you be proactive. So this can be explained. Then let's dig deep and look at how the input has been managed or where is it picking the data from. Um, a very proactive approach is monitoring and tracking inputs and even the outputs before it's utilized as a specific action should be taken. In fact, the hallucination angle is what should help you put governance in place or pay attention to it. And literally saying that, okay, you know what, I've thought through this, but don't put it out yet till I can confirm that it's legitimate information or it's actionable data that can be utilized. So again, it's not something to be overthought. It's just something to be applied quickly to put specific controls in place to manage data going in or how data is processed, or most importantly, the source of data. You need to be able to explain how and why. And that, thanks.
Okay, Masal?
No, yeah, I'm going to just compliment what Gubalo said. That is, they now say that garbage in, garbage out. So if your quality of your data is not good, definitely you problem. But one thing that to answer the question for the attendee, that is definitely need to have some guardrails, some extra protection, even if AI takes some measures by themselves that say, hey, you have some protection here, some levels that are not go to so far. I'll give a good example. Imagine that I have AI that you're going to ask for delete user and the AI going to do by themselves. So you need to have some protection. I don't know, maybe it can be the AI can delete only 5 users per hour or some kind of protection that if AI understand, oh, let me delete everyone in the company. No. You cannot do it because you have a guardrail, you have an extra layer here of security that say you cannot go that far. So hallucination can happen, but if you have a good quality data, sanitization before and after, even that. But my recommendation have some extra guardrails. Even that if AI failed, you can protect the company or protect your environment in the end of the day.
Okay. Okay. Still on you, Masal. Actually, you have a specific question directed to you. I think you started answering it when you mentioned focusing on risk. Evangeline is asking, Masal, specifically, what are some of the low-hanging fruits that companies need to address? So maybe in 30 seconds, if you can respond to her, that's from LinkedIn.
Yeah, so look at the items that it can take for sure. One is education of the people need to understand what training the employees about the AI. That is basically everyone to need to understand what is the rules of the game. Definitely something that it can do easily, super fast, and make people understand. The second one is work together with IT department to understand together with them, especially for shadow IT. If someone is use IT, uses some tools outside that we will be aware. Other stuff that it can do is, in generally every tool we pay by financial team. So you can go to financial and say, hey, give me the list of the payments of the tools here. Let me see if I found some stuff. And then you understand those items. For risk, education first. Also, I still believe that it is better to educate to block people. So as much that they educate what kind of data they can put in the AI tool, what kind of data, what tools that you're supposed to use, better for them. So as much as possible, I advocate that you need to educate instead of go there and block people. So that's my first high suggestion for any company.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you, Masal, thank you, Gbolabo. I think we can start wrapping it up because we have just 2, 3 minutes to close. So I will take your closing statements. Maybe your closing statements, you can just keep one practical takeaway to our listeners. Here's Zoom, YouTube, or LinkedIn about AI security governance. Gbolabo, you want to go first?
Yeah, that's fine. So it's a pleasure being on the call. I would say if there's anything we should take away is because I think I saw a comment around how people are staying away from AI from a fear perspective. And meanwhile, the right approach is to embrace it, like literally every step of the way on the job, leveraging technology, digital channels, embrace AI to utilize AI effectively. And um, and it's in the most simplistic tasks and deliverables that you need to do. It's not so high tech or overly difficult.
Masal, can you hear him?
Yeah, so I think last until
We need more. The beauty of the innovation leveraging AI is you need to continuously scale. So I would say embrace it, innovate, keep learning, and keep applying it across that. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you very much. Masal?
yes, so I would say that AI governance is marathon. It's not a 100 meters race. So if you start today, if you start with the baby step, you'll be better for a lot of most of the companies. So start today, baby steps, start to invest in security, on AI security from the beginning. Whatever you start for today, if I recommend, start to understand what you use in your company, then we be definitely you'll be super more effective than most of the companies that ignore. So start today, start with baby steps. You don't need to go bigger. If you start small, focus on the big risks now, you'll definitely improve the company security, AI security in the future. Thank you actually for your invitation. Also, thank you, Gobla, for be part of this discussion together with me. I learned a lot with you and Charles. And thank you for the audience to listen to me until today, until now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, thank you for the statement. So, thank you very much, Gbolabo. Thank you, Marcel. It has been interesting discussing with you and Charles. So definitely, I also learned a lot. And thank you to our listeners who have asked the questions, who have given the comments, both on Zoom, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn. It has been an interesting series, actually, with everyone. You can definitely just reach out to us. You can follow us on LinkedIn, or you can send us a note at hello@cyberkach.com. Or as Marcel suggests, you can hire him. You can also hire Gbolabo for a But it's been an interesting session today, and I'm very happy that we had it. So thank you everyone for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Take care. Bye.